Now, I'd like to start with introducing you to our first guest speaker for our conference, Wayne Blair. Wayne is a successful theatre, film and television actor, writer and director. He is a champion of Australian film and performance industry. As an Indigenous performer, writer and director, he is one of the leaders in his field, bringing Indigenous stories and issues to mainstream Australia and to international audiences. He's travelled here from Sydney to be with us today. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you, Tanya. It's interesting, this theatre here today, way back in 1989 was my first lecture room here at Central Queensland University. I actually came in through that door and I sat in probably the third last row next to I was late actually. I wasn't late actually, it was raining. I drove here in my Holden Astra, my 1983 Holden Astra I bought off my sister. You had to get a loan from the bank to do it. They wouldn't just give it, you had to get a loan. Dad said that and paid the bank off, and I drove here, and I remember it was the first day of the rest of my life. I did a Bachelor of Business back in those days. I majored in Marketing Management, straight from the Central Queensland University, just after it was called a CIAE. Hold on for 2 secs. So, yeah, that was the case, just had to get some notes. Wasn't a big thing. I grew up in Rockhampton. We came here when I was about age 9, 10. I was in an army family, so we travelled around Australia somewhat up until the age of 10. And Dad was the Regimental Sergeant Major here in Rocky at 42 RQR on the south of Rockhampton. So I went to Crescent Lagoon State Primary School, went to Rocky State High School at that time, and for me, my family weren't the type of family Mum and Dad weren't the type of family to follow your dreams or to achieve your goals. They were more sort of, you've got food in the house, you've got a roof over your head, just have good friends and get a schooling. It was sort of very simple back in those days. Because of my dad was, left school at age 14, 15. Mum did the same, look after family. Dad went and worked at the Bundaberg cane sugar area since he was 14-year-old. So he was always a hard worker, went to the Australian Army at 18. He trained soldiers to go to Vietnam in 1965 and was deported to Vietnam for 2 or 3 years back in 67. So they've worked their whole entire lives with their family and stuff. But for me, I was schooled. I was the third youngest and I was schooled at beautiful Crescent Lagoon State Primary School. Anyone go to Crescent Lagoon State Primary School? Yeah, okay, cool. Never won a Crezo Croc. Did you guys win a Crezo Croc? It was just a little certificate that you got with a great achievement. My best friend is actually the vice principal there. 2 of my best friends, my school captain Susan Holland and one of my best mates, Les Berriman, are actually the vice principals there, which is a school that's close to my heart. Then I went to Rockhampton State High School and it was very, very normal, had average grades. I was good at sport, rugby league and cricket, so that was my equaliser. But for me, schooling, I really enjoyed school, but I was average. But I really worked hard. In grade 11, I did a subject, you did your electives as you were back in the day. I did ancient history. Really loved ancient history. That was my top mark for my whole school year. This is back in the day of we had a tertiary education score. I'm not too sure the name for it now is, but I did ancient history. And my friends came to me in grade 11 and they said to me, there's this course, there's this new subject in school. This is Queensland in the 80s, right? Rockhampton. Rockhampton is 6.5 hours drive north of Brisbane. It's definitely not a city back in those days, and it definitely had an attitude of just working hard. There's a sort of a Western element to it with the country of this world and the beef capital of Australia. So to do drama and stuff back then was a little bit of stepping outside your boundary. And my friends sort of said, my mates weren't the sort of trendy guys or the sports jocks. We were like the go-kart kids. So we sort of enveloped go-karts and BMX bikes, and we were breakdance and aficionados. So that was us. or the Dynamic Breakers, my name was Nitro. You know, that's how much detail we had, and that was everything for us. That was everything. And I did this course, a subject called Theatre in Australia. And when I stepped into that room, my teacher was Amanda Brown, Miss Brown. She's my Facebook friend these days. She looked out for me after all these years. It's funny. I was in another world a little bit. We had permission to sort of just to experiment, to play with form, and to study the history of theatre in Australia and the world. And that was like, oh wow, why am I wasting my time on this subject? Why was I wasting my time? Because my friends were there and I actually enjoyed it. I topped the class, topped Rockhampton actually. Emmaus TCC, or Emmaus back in those days, Rockhampton Girls Grammar, Rockhampton Grammar. I topped that course. So what I did the next year, through advice from my parents and just where my friends were going, I went to this course. I got into this course here, a Bachelor of Business majored in Marketing Management. I studied here 3 years, back in '89. I achieved my degree, majored in Marketing Management. I actually enjoyed my degree. What my degree did for me was kept me in my hometown. And what you have to remember, this is my own individual journey. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm trying to inspire, support what you do. I'm trying to engage with you in a way to say, to follow this journey you do, this journey you're going on, and to give permission for you to be you. Simple as that. For you to follow that gut instinct that is somewhere in you, to follow that, so you can be you. You're here for a purpose, you're here for a reason today. You could be home on holidays, or reading a textbook by yourself in the library, or doing something else, But you're here for a reason. And I suppose for me, back in those days, I did that a little bit towards my marketing degree, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't lost, I was patient. So during my second year, it was my second year of the course, I passed all my grades in my first year, except for one. Sorry, I was thinking, should I lie about that one? It was Quantitative Methods 1A. So, why does everyone laugh about that? No one gets that in Sydney. So I wasn't bulletproof. I don't know why I failed that one actually. I think I just I just was busy, or I just anyway, I won't go into that. Get over it, Wayne. Move on. So I did that course while I was in Sydney, actually working for the Australian Tourist Commission. Hello. But I just picked that up. But anyway, what I did in my second year, you're allowed to take electives back in those days. You probably still are, of course. Second and third year, everyone was doing financial management or international research. I did comic drama and Australian drama. And my family at that time, mum and dad, was like, yeah, okay. They didn't really know what electives I was doing, to be honest. I think my friends, a couple of my friends who said, are you doing drama? I said, yeah. Because I found out about the course, and my cousin was doing a teaching degree out here, and I went and I actually sort of came and sort of listened into a couple of his drama classes, and I actually really liked it. It was a continuation on from my grade 12 class, but with a bit more clarity and a bit more specificity. And the people in that class were actually quite good. So I did my second year, I did comic drama and Australian drama, topped those. Right? So get this, I'm averaging, average and higher than average marks for my Bachelor of Business, majored in Marketing. I was working across at the Dreamtime Cultural Centre. I was working at Video Easy. I was working at Sizzler as a guest service attendant. So I had some part-time jobs. I was playing cricket for Brothers Club. I was playing football, rugby league for Brothers Club. And had a girlfriend, which name I won't mention, Peter. But, so I had a life. I was busy, but I kept a balanced life. And I came out here and did these two drama subjects, and I really loved them. And I did one more, it was Australian drama, and again in third year, while achieving average marks. I graduated I had to pick up CQUniversity down in Sydney. I went straight to, because of my rugby league, I went straight to the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. I was still, I thought, I'll do marketing. I went and played a couple of games for those guys. But what I did in Sydney, I worked for the Australian Tourist Commission. As a 20-year-old, I went straight to Sydney. To the life of me, I knew rugby league. Everyone was pushing me to do rugby league. But I knew I knew my passion wasn't there. So I had to search for it a little bit. And I wasn't big as the rest of the other guys, but I had a lot of heart, and I tried my best. I was 120%. I had a lot of ticker, as they say, but I was small in stature. But so my heart was never really there at that, those ages. Where my heart lied was in another world. I just didn't know about it. When I went to Sydney and worked for the Australian Tourist Commission in their marketing department, I absolutely loved it because I was being treated like an adult. My first wage was $23,146 on that little wage bracket. I remember that very clearly. I was getting good coin every day. Well, not for 2015, but back in those days, I was in heaven, but I knew there was something else. So I went down in Sydney. I read the Daily Telegraph, and I looked for looked in those column sections like a drama course, study your dreams, study your goals. I met this guy back in the city of Sydney. I can't even remember where it was. It was just some dodgy place. And he was saying to me, give me $3,500 and I'll do your photos and we'll make you an actor, I'll make you a star. And in that was, it was a lot of codswallop. It was a big lie, but and people still do that. But back in that day, I thought this guy could open up my world to another life. So basically, cut a long story short, I came back to Rocky, still got my job back at Sizzler, played football for Norse that year, but I knew there was something else. So I auditioned for this place called NIDA. And it was a day before the internet or computers, etc. It was when you had to sort of research and go get a book and get a book sent to your PO box or to your home address. And I looked at this course, an acting course. I knew Mel Gibson and Judy Davis went there, but that's all I knew. So I knew I had to do, I had to study, and I had to do some monologues. I learnt my monologues. There were 3 monologues. There was a play from a Jack Davis play, a speech from an Arthur Miller play called Death of a Salesman, and it was a famous speech from Mark Antony in Julius Caesar, Friends, Romans, Countrymen, Lend Me Your Ears. I did those 3. I went to West End, and in that room, when I walked into that room, I'll get to the point. I walked into that room, there was about 40 or 50 young people from around the state. They were beautiful people. The girls looked like ballerinas, the girls looked like Jennifer Aniston, Angelina Jolie, the guys looked like, Brad Pitt or, they were, and I was just Wayne Blair in his rugby league football shorts with his high mountain boots. Can you imagine in West End? And West End wasn't trendy and marketable those days, but I walked in and I auditioned, I did my 3 speeches, and I was thinking in that room, there was 30 or 40 people there, and what you did, this is how daunting it was, you get nervous to speak in places like this. 30 or 40 students had to sit down and you had to get up in front of people and perform your pieces. I'd never performed for anyone in my entire life, these pieces at all. These people studied drama since they were, in grade 5. So I went up and I got up and I did my pieces, and I got down to the last 8 in Queensland. John Clark informed me I had to come back to Brisbane on the Monday, which I did. I came back on the Monday, auditioned again, and my name wasn't called out. And Tony Knight came down and said to me, who was head of the acting course for 40 years, he said, "Wayne, you've got to go to this place called QUT in Brisbane." So that's what I did. I sort of went, okay, if you have to say I have to go to QUT, I'll do it. He said, go to QUT for 1 year, then re-audition for NIDA and come back and spend 3 years down here. I said, that's my plan. I had a specific goal. At that stage, I was 21, I just turned 21, 20. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So that year I saved my money, worked at Sizzler, Video Easy, Dreamtime. I had a goal. For the first time in my life, I had a goal. Because as they say to you, for me, that's my first sort of point, is if that's a brick wall, right? That's a brick wall. And I say, this is my goal. Right there. So all bricks, right? So if I say, here are my goals, there's one goal there, one goal there, one goal there. No, what I implore you to do is name your goal. So if I got a big white chalk, and I went like this, X on a brick, that's my goal. So I can say, that is my goal right there. Because if in those first 3 or 5, if I made 5 goals, that's my goal, that's my goal, that's my goal, without really naming it, I'm here, I can see it clearly. I walk 20 metres away, I can see it clearly. I walk 50 metres away, oh shit, where are my goals again? But if I can name it with a white piece of chalk and say, this is my goal, write it down, tell it to someone, put it in a book, trust me, that is my goal. If I walk 100 metres that way, I can still see my goal with a white piece of chalk, and I know exactly what my goal was. My goal was to go to QUT and go back to NIDA. And so what I did, I studied and I learnt those same 3 pieces. I didn't change. I learnt those same 3 pieces again. I got into QUT, and that was another chapter of my life. I walked into that place in Kelvin Grove in Brisbane. If you're familiar with Brisbane, I walked into Kelvin Grove. It's changed a lot these days. And I walked onto that campus back in 1993, And I had 15 people in my class who had the same thoughts and responses and had the same passion for what they wanted to do as me. We were doing yoga every day. It sounds so weird. I went straight from rugby league at the Brothers Club, so manly and so testosterone and so like, we're men, you know, to a drama course in Brisbane and Kelvin Grove, and I sat right into that. I enjoyed my yoga, I enjoyed my voice classes, I enjoyed my classes in the afternoon because I applied myself. I was the only Rockhampton person there at that time. I was in a world of another 400, and I was a little bit older too, 2 or 3 years older. Back in those days, it was like you were 50. You know, these days, you know, like, but, you know, of course I didn't realise it at the time, you know, oh, could I go out with you? No, you're too young. But anyway, oh, you know what I mean, So, yeah, or go out with me or whatever. But anyway, it wasn't just about that. But look, back to it sort of opened myself up to the world, because I thought no matter what I did, there were other people out there like me that had the same passion as me, that had the same brain power as me, that thought like me, that engaged with books or engaged with theatre works or drama pieces just like me. But what it did was open myself up to the world. I thought when I grew up in Rockhampton that this was the be-all and end-all. I seriously thought I was working at Sizzler and that was everything. When I've travelled in the last, 10 years, and I've been in my industry for the last 15 years, I can see that there are not, people are different, people are strange, people are fascinating. That's that's like 90% of my job, to observe and to sort of, by the power of moving images, to reveal, to invoke, and yes, to inspire, but just to sit back and just relate to people, to say I'm no different. But for me, what it was for me was that I've travelled to a number of places, to a number of film festivals, and I've come across so many more people like me. And I thought to myself, because I gave myself permission. When I look back, and I've done a number of talks and I've spoken to a number of young people in Australia and around the world, what I did is I gave myself permission for whatever was inside of me to come out, and I stepped up. I remember I graduated from my course for 3 years, and then I started acting in Sydney. I did the whole All Saints, Water Rats shows, Wild Side shows back in the day. My first feature film, I acted in a film called Mullet. I played Ben Mendelsohn's best friend, an Australian actor. And then I started doing a lot of theatre. I did Tim Winton's Cloud Street. We were in Sydney at the National Theatre over in London. We're over in Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. We performed in Brooklyn 2 weeks after September 11. Did a dance show for Bangarra Dance Theatre called Skin with Archie Roach for the Olympic Arts Festival. And then I performed for Belvoir Street Theatre, which is like Geoffrey Rush's theatre company, and Sydney Theatre Company, which back in the day was run by a person called Robin Nevin. But I was always, fortunately, in really great shows. I suppose what I did is that I stepped up. I actually stepped up. Instead of someone, I know these next 2 days is about leadership, but I'll sort of get to that, because for me, I was never a leader. I suppose my point is I was never a leader. And and I don't know if you're ever born leaders. Some people say you are born leaders, but for me, it was nature and nurture. That's right, that whole sort of concept, nature and nurture. But for me, I learnt by ethos. It was always somewhere inside of me. Ethotically, I've just made that word up, I learnt by the people and the places and my journey around me. And I was a sponge. The best thing I did, I was a sponge. As I drove forward with my goals, I was a sponge for everything around me. I was never, except for sport and breakdance, I was never the best at anything. But I was the best learner. I applied myself. Because in my industry, whether you're a leader or you're not a leader, you have to have energy and focus. Focus and energy. Energy someone can have a lots of. You get a lot of talkers in Sydney, Los Angeles, New York, around the world, in your industry and my industry. But not many people have focus. Not many people have a desire to achieve great things, or a desire to be happy, or a real desire. They do, but they don't have any application to do it. That's the difference. No matter what you do, that's a difference I've found. And it's no fault of anyone. People have their own journeys. All you individual people, whether you're 18, 35 or 52, black, white, brindle, gay, straight, male, female, Commodore, Falcon. It's up to you. It's your decision. For me, at the time I was not conscious of that decision. When I look back, and if I spoke to my former self as a young 18-year-old, I'm sure I would have been very clear. I don't have the nous or the brain power to go right back then, right that time, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I needed to step up. Oh, look out, yawn. I needed to step up. That's okay. And in that time, I started out as an actor, and then I became a director. In 2001, I got an opportunity at Metro Screen to write a short film and direct a short film. We got in-kind support and about $1,500. Not much to make film when a budget can be for a short film $100,000 or $150,000. About a $1,500. Made a short film. I really bloody enjoyed it. It was a good little film called Fade to Black. 5-minute film that won a number of festivals in Australia. Then a year later, from the same organisation, I got $6,000 to make my next short film called Jubulj, Jubulj, from a language in WA. It was a short film about a day in the life of a girl. It won a lot of awards. Then a year later, I got, $110,000 to make a short film called Black Talk, about two cousins. They meet at the back of a church one day. One just happens to be alive, the other one just happens to be a ghost. That won awards. That won the Sydney Film Festival Best Short Film Award. And then I went on in my film career. I was still acting at this stage in my film career. Back in 2006, I stepped up and made a show called Lockie Leonard. It was a famous book written by Tim Winton. And we shot it in, which you'll see the photo, which is not there when I do my password and all that, it'll get up there, which was shot in Albany, Western Australia. And it was a famous book by Tim Winton about a young boy's journey and about his family and about this sort of weird family that he has, and he moves from town to town. His dad becomes a copper of this town one day, and it's the same story as Tim Winton's story. But it was a 26 half-hour episode TV show done for Channel 9, and it was my first time I was working outside my comfort zone. And I was a director, and being a director, you have to, you have so many satellites around you. You have to be a part of it. The way you communicate, you have to be very clear. You have to have so much clarity to be any leader. And you have to delineate, you have to have clarity, and you have to communicate in a way that's very clear to everyone. Back in those days, it wasn't like me. I stepped out in that set, but for me, I was working outside my comfort zone in another state with about 99% crew I didn't know. So you've got grips, you've got gaffers, you've got camera people, you've got actors. And at that time, I worked mainly with Indigenous actors. This is the first time, because of the success of my short films, a producer gave me an opportunity to work on a mainstream Channel 9 kids TV show. And that was a big step up for me. Instead of making 2 or 3 short films in the space of 6 years, I made 3 short films in the space of 6 weeks. And they were called episodes. You watch episodes of Home and Away and, whatever, not Home and Away people, but you know what I mean, Home and Away, Neighbours or Game of Thrones. And for me, that was the first time I really thought that, I could have shied away from that. I could have been an embarrassed little my-old boy from Rockhampton. And sometimes you go back to that embarrassed state when you're not confident or you're weak or you feel like you don't belong. But for me, and at that stage, I forget my age, but I was in my 30s, I had to step up. For the sake of the 26 pages that some writer had sort of stayed up many nights for, I had to step up and impart my knowledge to this crew and to the actors and to be a leader. Yep, invariably be a leader. I had to sort of delegate. I had to communicate to so many people, costume, design, everyone, and everyone about about performing a scene or making a scene or making a TV show, always being under the ferocity of Channel 9 drama department back in Sydney. But this was Wayne Blair, Rockhampton State High School, drama class, on his first film set in 2006 in Western Australia, telling a person like Tim Winton's story. But I did that, I achieved that, and I learnt so much from that. That was the key. So again, that was my first experience in a mainstream TV show. I learnt so much from that. So I came back to Sydney. I was fortunately, I got a job in Bell Shakespeare as an actor, played Othello. And Othello, we toured Australia for about 100 shows. We were at the Opera House for about 6 or 7 weeks back in 2007. 2008, I directed a show called Reuben Guthrie. It was made into a film. 2009, I worked with Kate Blanchett at the Sydney Theatre Company. I worked with her in her first stage show for a Sydney Theatre Company as an artistic director. It was called Romeo and Juliet. Then we did The Removalists in 2010. And then I worked with Steven Soderbergh, he directed a film called Traffic, and Aaron Brockovich, and worked with him at Kate's Theatre Company in Sydney 2010, and worked with Philip Seymour Hoffman. He directed me in a show called True West. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, for those of you who don't know, was an actor who took his own life about 2.5 years ago. He won the Academy Award for Capote. So in my experience, being around people that have engaged the world really, I have learnt a few things. I have learnt about belief, trusting and applying the talent that you have. Please just do it, because, for most of you, there'll come a time it's probably a time today or the next 6 weeks or the next 2 or 3 years, and it sort of comes back at you where you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision to trust something, or make a decision to trust something that's there that you're fully aware that you can do. Or do you sit back? And there might be a variety of reasons to sit back. It might be family, it might be your immediate partner or kids, but it could, primarily they're excuses. Like, I'm just saying this, you can believe it or not. Primarily they could be seen as excuses, because it's up to you, it's there. If I can achieve something from living at 21 Jackson Street and travel the world and be engaged and tell stories, and to sort of, I suppose, I say that we really sort of, what do you call it? Not with confidence, I suppose. I suppose I did that. Whereas I had to be a leader, and now it's 2015, on a number of film sets. The last one I did was a show called Clever Man, which was a multi-million-dollar show in Sydney that we're working with a Wellington company that did all the Lord of the Rings. The one before that was a film in Bulgaria called Septembers of Shiraz with Adrian Brody and Selma Hayek. And the one before that was a film called The Sapphires, which I directed, which was 4 girls, and Chris O'Dowd and Deb Malm and Jess Mowboy, Miranda Tapsell and Shari Sebbins. And working with $12 million there, and selling our film, this Australian film, to every territory and country in the world. I'm guessing, just yawned again, but just like, sapphires, I don't care about sapphires. Sorry, sapphires, I do sapphires. I did sapphires too. Give me sapphires 3. But fuck sapphires. Sorry, excuse me, I didn't mean to swear. But no, you're right. You had Oktoberfest. But and I tell that I impart that onto people, because back in those days, and I don't need that anymore. I don't need people that speak my language, because I trust that they're there. I actually know and trust that they're there. What I don't know, Ian, and don't trust continually is me. Is about where I want to go. And I had it so very clearly back, when I was at a younger age and continually through. I've really got to still self-engage myself to know exactly what I want to do. Because once you do fail, it's great. It's really a great feeling. Once you do achieve success or achieve a goal, it's a great feeling as well. But it gives you so much more responsibility. And it gives you so much, it's pressure. It's how you deal with that. And so I'm learning in the last 2 years of how to deal with that type of pressure. And that's not from family. That's not from my hometown. That involves the pressure from the outside world, but it's how much pressure I place on myself. It's coming from me. I found out, I'm only 43, and this is my point of view, I found that everything generates from me. The good stuff, the bad stuff. If I smoke, I drink, play up. It's attribution theory, blame everyone else except yourself. But also, all the great stuff I've done, all the good stuff that I've been happy with, that's the difference. But achieving and to be happy, it all comes from me. And it all comes from a trust of me. And what I can do and what I can impart to the world. Last week I was at a cafe in Sydney, at Sydney Dance Cafe, and I met with Bob Ellis. And Bob Ellis is this writer, he's an Australian writer, and he used to write for Paul Keating all the way through. He's written for a number of Prime Ministers, their speeches, but Paul Keating was his famous one, wrote that famous Redfern speech, I believe. And he said, I asked him about what the meaning of life is, because you have these big conversations, and he said, first one is to ward off boredom of what we do, and he said to impart, and he said the second reason for us being here is to impart a little bit of empathy towards the world, to make the world empathise with itself. And I really responded to the second one, because I suppose through moving images and stories, I'm sort of indirectly trying to change the world, trying to inform, educate, and keep real what the world we live in, directly through my own community here in Rockhampton and Hervey Bay, and indirectly through the rest of Australia and the rest of this earth. But one step at a time, Wayne, and that's what I found out. So look, I've met you today, and I apologise about the first 5 minutes about trying to work out this whole laptop rigmarole, but we've adjusted and we've moved on, and I'm trying to let go of that. I'm going to show you a couple of things, because I've talked enough, and I could talk more to you about that leadership, but I think it just comes from you. You know exactly what you want to do now. You're sort of tough. You're confident. You've written your Facebook message. You talk to your mum and dad, partner, but you've got to do that tomorrow again. Trust me. You go, Wayne, I can do it tomorrow. Do it in 6 months. Do it every day. Because a lot of people don't do that, and there's people have other things that happen to them in their lives, and that's another way of adversity, and we have to deal with that. So during this one day you're fit and healthy, you've got to continue that, and you've got to continue that for really the rest of your life. You can see I get a little bit nervous once I'm talking about that, because really who I'm talking to is me. Yeah, you guys are out here and you guys paid a fee and we had a nice lunch, no bread for some people, and but you can see I get a little bit nervous to say a joke or two, because it's a hard world out there. And in the same breath, I absolutely love what I do, but I just I find it very, very hard. The irony. I absolutely love something. In the same breath, I find it very hard, because it's not about competing or being the best. It's about really knowing what I want to say. And that's what I'm dealing with. But I continually find the answer to that as well. And then, I suppose, apologising, I lead with that. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff here, and we have a little bit of Q&A time at the end. My password, you didn't see that? Now, okay, I'm just going to show you a couple of things. What's the time there, Tanya?
It's 10 past.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. So I went from doing Lockie Leonard, doing theatre shows in Sydney, and this is my second film. Here's the trailer for it, September's a Shiraz. I don't think I really should be showing this trailer, but that's okay. Peter, that's running? Is that running still?
I can switch it off.
Yeah, switch it off. Please. And the lights are on and all that sort of stuff, but that's okay. You get a taste. and I'm willing to give you a taste. But that's the second film I did after this film called The Sapphires. We shot that in Bulgaria. Another crew, not more of 60, more of a Hollywood crew, 200 people. And which, I had to step up and become a leader that day, and that 6-week shoot, and the 9 months of working with Americans and working with Salma Hayek and her agents and Adrian Brody and his agents. So you certainly start to become, you are a director and you are a leader of some sorts, but you just become something else that you have to step up and be. Here's another show. This ABC show I've just done. It's called Clever Man. Same thing. It's a new show, a 6 one-hour TV show, a little bit cross between District 9, a film, and The Wire. It was about $1 million an ep. So I've gone from $1,500 a film at Metro Screen to about $1 million an ep. But I directed this with another director called Leah Purcell, Queensland girl. I did 4 episodes, she did 2, but I initiated it and was the set-up director. So this is a show called Clever Man. It's a little bit of a genre show, the first time Australian TV will ever do it. And I'll just give you a little bit of a taste. Because it's cool and it's something different. Yeah, sort of come a long way since Sizzler. But, sorry, I just had to do that joke just to break the ice. But you see my name's there just for legality purposes, so I don't cheat and around the world. But, okay, look, I'm just not going to, I don't want to do, just have a look at that, whatever. I've tried to best engage with you with what I can in the space of these first 40 minutes, but, what I'd like to do now is to just open it up. If you have any questions, is that correct, Tanya? If you have any questions, and that might be the catalyst for some more conversation. You've got me now, because this is first and last time I've come home this year, so... use that.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Clever Man's released April next year. We've actually just sold it to Sundance TV, which is like AMC, which, The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad. Those shows own that, so it'll be released in April next year. So what we're going to do is have a co-release for Sundance in America and the ABC in Australia. So about April, I think.
I have a question. I know that even though we're in a time of change where careers, as they were when you go and work in corporate for the rest of your life, is no longer going to be the only path or the expected path when we leave university, how did you find working outside a traditional corporate model? So not a step job that you went to?
It evolved for me, and I suppose I'm more of a freelance worker and more of a consultant. I go from job to job, but fortunately the wage pays enough that I can sustain a living for the next 10, 15, 20 years that I'm alive, 30, 40 years. But for me, it was an adjustment. I just had to continually adjust and be open to change, quite simply. And for me, but it's a bit of a cheat because in my career, you continually do that, and it's how best one does change. It happens more frequently, so that's what I've learned. But for someone that you're in just you're in an occupation or an environment for 3, 5, 7 years, and then you have change. You just have to be open and just be aware that it's happening when it happens. People are aware of change but never do anything about it because they don't trust, or they're not open to evolve and adjust and be malleable. They don't believe in, I'm not too sure.
I guess a continuation on that, because I know you come from a very traditional family. How did your family manage with you taking that path?
They thought I would move back to Rockhampton or Hervey Bay or come back to Queensland, which invariably I still might do. So, they were very supportive for same sort of simple things, as long as I had a roof over my head and I had food on the table.